Just wanted to quickly introduce myself. I'm here under the auspices of the Longview Tea Party that is called We the People. I was privileged to be asked to become the chairman last summer, and I'm very involved in local politics in various aspects. In addition to the Tea Party, I am also the secretary of the Great County Republican Party. I'm also involved in a Tea Party group called East Texas for Liberty, which is based out of Gilmer. I'm not here on behalf of any of those organizations than We the People. Just to give you a little bit of insight into some more of my involvement, this past summer I was privileged to be a delegate of the Republican National Convention in Cleveland. I was the at-large delegate for Congressional District 1. And I just wanted to let you know, if you've never been involved in the party convention process, I highly encourage you to get involved. It really is eye-opening in terms of seeing how policy decisions are made for the political parties. I'm not here advocating for any political party, even though I'm deeply involved. But it's a way that those of us that are, I'm nobody special. I'm just a guy. I work the oil field. I'm a dad of 4. I play drums in my local church. That's who I am. I'm nobody special. But getting involved in grassroots political activism has really helped me feel like I have a better voice in the process, and that I can at least be aware of what's going on, because that's how a lot of these decisions are made by government, is they think that they're doing things behind closed doors, and that people don't care. Unfortunately, a lot of people don't, but if enough of us do rise up, and on the life issue is extremely important. My group, my Tea Party group, we are a general education type group. We don't focus on any one issue, but broad conservative causes. We advocate for returning to constitutional values, Christian values that were the founding of our nation. We are very adamant about that. So the life issue is something very personally important to me. I do have, enough of a Christian testimony that, I'm named after the guy who wrote "I knew you before I formed you in the womb," so I've grown up every day with, hey, that's who you're named after. But also, myself, I'm privileged to come from a great Christian heritage, and even now, my parents are illustrating not just about the birth issue when it comes to life, but about the broad spectrum. My grandmother is 93 years old. She has very advanced Alzheimer's. She's not going to be with us very long, but she every day says, "I'm ready to go to heaven." And my parents would be totally justified in putting her in a nursing home, but they are committed to taking care of her. I'll say, no, you will be we will take care of you. We're not going to pawn you off to somebody else. And so I'm even now seeing an example of that. On my other grandparents, my grandfather died of Parkinson's several years ago, and my grandmother took care of him every day in his final years when he could barely do anything for himself. And I don't think it's an accident that my grandfather held on until just about 2 weeks after their 60th wedding anniversary. And my grandparents gave me such an amazing view of what it means to be committed from birth to natural end. And then even myself, honestly, if I didn't have such a heritage, I may have been tempted to tell my wife to get an abortion when we had our first child. Now, that thought never entered my head, but when my wife and I got pregnant for the first time, honestly, we were broke. We were poorer than church mice. And there's a lot of people that use economics. They don't even address the morality of it. They just say, well, we can't afford this child. Because, in this age of, well, I want my Cadillac, and I want my 60-inch TV screen, and I want my, whatever. It's all about me, 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 me. Instead of, no, this child was made by God and has been formed. Anyway, that's just to establish, how passionate I am. I'm not just up here addressing legislation, although that's what I've been asked to do. And so I just wanted to start off by saying, in terms of pro-life legislation across the country, I want to start with an encouraging note. We really are winning on the issue of life, okay? There's pro-life legislation being filed at the state level. The federal level, not quite as much. Again, because the court system, the federal court system, is so hard to deal with when it comes to the life issue. They're constantly striking things down. Most recently, for Texas, Those of you that were aware of House Bill 2 from the 2013 state legislative session, that was struck down almost every part of it by the Supreme Court. Now that fight is not over. Things are still kind of going there. But the fight continues, and so I was just looking up some statistics to share, and a little bit ago, actually, just like about last week, National Review did an article about a study was published recently by the Guttmacher Institute, that's Guttmacher, that has cited that there has been a 14% decline in abortions just from 2011 to 2014. And a lot of that has been attributed to pro-life legislation that is being passed at the state level. And so that's encouraging. And overall, since 1980, when we saw the peak of abortions being performed, we've actually had a 50% decline. And so just use that as encouragement. Now, yes, of course, we never give up the fight. Okay, until abortion is truly abolished nationwide and around the world, for that matter, we need to stand up as Christians, as the church, and say, no, this is the civil rights issue of our era, and we will not back down. But we do need to stay encouraged. Okay. The other thing that's being done in terms of pro-life legislation around the country is they're making efforts. I think state legislators are getting smarter about how to conduct this fight. And not just saying, well, let's pass a law abolishing abortion, or let's pass a law saying abortion is murder. That's all necessary and good, but there's other things such as public funding laws, parental involvement laws, and informed consent laws, which also address some of the other related issues in terms of how to make abortion more restricted, or to just basically chip away at the overall thing. And there are laws that are addressing those specific things that are making some significant progress. Of course, right now, one of the big campaign issues coming out of the presidential cycle has been the effort to defund Planned Parenthood by way of making taxpayer funding going to Planned Parenthood, removing that provision. And that's something that needs to be continued to be worked on. Focusing here on Texas, back in 2011, the state legislative cycle, they did pass a sonogram law, which is to say that make it mandate that before you can receive an abortion, you have to have been given an opportunity to view a sonogram. And that has really helped a lot. Now, as we've seen, it's still not doing enough, because there are still people who are so blind to what they're doing. They will see a sonogram, they will see their baby, and even on these wonderful video sonograms we have now, you can watch your child in real time. I've been privileged to do that with my children. By the way, I have 4 that I had in 5.5 years, so go me. Yeah, I'm there. And so, I can talk to people about sonograms because, I've actually done it. Not because I need to be convinced that was a child, but just, seeing the wonderful creation of God. And so we passed the sonogram law, I say we, just in Texas, in 2011, and then 2013 was HB2 that I just referenced. And unfortunately, just this past summer, it was struck down at the Supreme Court by a 5-3 decision. And so just as a quick aside on that, we noticed that the life issue is one of those issues that bring out the most passion in people, okay, both for and against. Pastor Mark mentioned that just by advertising a pro-life event on Facebook, he's been getting attacked, and this organization has been getting attacked. And that's because, yes, it pricks at our very conscience of how we view life. And so many people try to say, well, it's my choice. Well, my firm opinion, and I think I can base this on the Bible, no, it's not your choice, it's God's choice. And we can't take God's choice away, because if we do, then we are placing ourselves above Him, and that is one of the biggest sins you can do. So, in terms of the Supreme Court, though, that is where one of the major battlegrounds is taking place, which is why we really need to pray that President Trump goes through with his promise to appoint pro-life justices. If he does nothing else, which he's made a lot of grand promises, and for his sake and for the sake of the country, I do hope that he means what he says, and I hope he's able to get some done what he says, regardless of where you stand. On the life issue, that's something that we can all rally behind, and if he does nothing else, I really hope that he is able to get through some pro-life justices, because he is probably going to be able to do at least 2 justices, likely 3, and perhaps even 4, especially if he ends up with an 8-year term. And we could totally flip the court right now, or within the next several years, and that will be the way that we can get Roe v. Wade fully repealed. Is by the it was a Supreme Court decision that passed that, and it would have to then be a Supreme Court decision that would reverse that. And so that needs to be a huge item of prayer for us. Okay, for this session of the Texas Legislature that just started last week, we have quite a number of pro-life bills that have already been filed. And let's see, Jay Dean was invited, our new state rep for Texas House District 7 was invited tonight, but I guess he couldn't make it. But his name is Jay Dean, if you're not familiar with him, former mayor of Longview. He campaigned as a pro-life conservative, and so my hope is that for several of these pro-life bills that have been filed, that he will get on board. So do make sure and call his office and ask him to support any pro-life bill that he comes across. And I just wanted to name a couple of those real quick. You have HB 87, which would remove fetal abnormalities from the exemption list for the post-20-week abortion ban. Currently, Texas law states that you cannot perform an abortion after 20 weeks gestational age. And so HB 87 is just seeking to, again, start, there's the post-20-week abortion ban, but then they have all these lists of exceptions. It says, well, if this is occurring, then yes, you can still do an abortion past 20 weeks, which is just unconscionable in my mind. But anyway, so this is an example of a piece of legislation that, yeah, it's not directly saying, well, let's make abortion illegal, but it's kind of closing some loopholes, and in this case, it's about fetal abnormalities. HB 144, and again, you don't have to worry about writing these down. You can look these up easily online. Just type in like pro-life legislation, Texas legislature, something like that, and you can come up with a whole list. But HB 144, it would require abortion facilities to submit monthly reports to the state on the number of abortions that they do. Right now, there's no reporting requirement by facilities that are chartered in Texas. And so this is just another effort to bring some transparency, because there are people who, yeah, they may say, well, I don't really like abortion, but, what can we do about it? They aren't aware of the millions of babies that are killed every year. And if we can put something like this bill into law here in Texas that would then provide this public number to say, look, folks, here's how many babies die in Texas each year, I think that could open up some people's eyes and get some more people active in the fight to abolish abortion. House Bill 201 is to codify the disposal of fetal remains. Right now, there's no law that defines what happens to the remains of the babies after they are killed. Mostly, there's a dumpster out back, and they just get thrown out like any piece of trash. Except and the reason that's so horrible, I mean, there's a million reasons it's horrible, but we have all these laws that govern what happens to a dead body post-birth. There's all these laws about what has to happen within 24 hours, within 48 hours, the reporting requirements, all of that. Yet for dead babies that have not been born yet, there's no law that says this is what you must do. And so that's another example of a law that is seeking to bring a little bit more dignity to the process and make people think about what they're actually doing. There's also a bill called Joint Resolution 9, which is a proposed amendment to the Texas Constitution that formally recognizes a preborn right to life and prohibits abortion up to the maximum of federal law. Now, this joint resolution, it would need 2/3 legislative majority and would then have to be ratified by voters in a statewide referendum. And so this is something to really push on our local state legislators and our senator. Fortunately, State Senator Brian Hughes, who's for Senate District 1, he is a very strong pro-life guy. And so in terms of lobbying him, you don't really need to worry about him, but you still need to make your voice heard, because he's now in a greater platform than he was in the Texas House, and he needs to hear support from his constituents. And so I really encourage you to get in touch with his office. So if Joint Resolution 9 were to pass, that would be put on the November ballot for the general election, even though this would be a year where there's no candidates running, but just like last year where you have a list of referendum items to be added to the state constitution. If we could get that passed, that would be a huge step forward. Now, the most dramatic bill that has been filed so far, and Mark referenced this earlier, is House Bill 948, and it's entitled the Abolition of Abortion in Texas Act. And there are copies of the bill on the back tables, and so when we have a break here, I encourage you to go back and actually read the bill. It's actually very short. Don't get your eyes glazed over by the fact that it's a little bit of legalese. It's only about 3 pages in total, and some of it is redundant, so you can kind of see what the title is and then look at the germane sections. Some of it is such like, amending this paragraph of this subsection of this, and you get the point of it, but read the first page, and that really gets to the heart of it. What this act would do, and now keeping in mind, if you don't know anything about the legislative process, there's the bills that are filed, and then there's the bills that actually make it to the floor, then there's the bills that actually get voted on and become law, and there's a whole lot of amendment processes that can take place. But the exciting thing is that this was filed by State Representative Tony Tinderhold. He's from the Arlington area. By the way, that's the man to really pray for, because he's going to come under massive attack, and I know he already has. But this particular bill, as filed, it would amend the state code to say that life begins, and this is the quote, at the moment of fertilization. If that phrase can stay in the bill, that would be amazing, because I believe that would be the first state law of its kind in the nation to have it in state law that says life begins at the moment of conception and fertilization, and so that would be amazing. The bill also, as currently filed, it would remove abortion as an exemption from the state penal code on criminal homicide. And so it would finally be saying that abortion is murder, and that if you perform an abortion, you will be charged with murder. Now, just as a quick warning, though, one of the other parts of the bill is that it would allow mothers who obtain an abortion, they could also be charged with murder. I have a feeling that is going to be the strongest attack against this bill. And I'm not going to comment further on that. I'm just saying that the bill, as currently filed, it would say that both the doctor and the mother will be charged with murder. And now the specific language of the bill has something to do with if you perform a procedure with intent to end the life of the child. So, there's even some legalese involved with that. But basically, it's establishing the goalpost of saying, here's the goalpost all the way at the end. Abortion is murder. Life begins at the moment of conception. If you perform an abortion, you will be charged under the state code with murder. It's a very bold filing. But that's what's going on at the state level right now, and so some real prayer points there is something to keep track of. Nationwide, really the fight just continues in various areas with different states, since it is largely a state issue in terms of which states define at which stage abortion is legal. Again, just because it's legal doesn't mean it's right. Probably right now, other than the Texas pro-life bills that have been gaining lots of national attention, was the heartbeat bill in Ohio that was passed by the Ohio State Legislature, and then the supposedly pro-life John Kasich refused to sign it. What that bill said, it said once you detect a heartbeat, you cannot perform an abortion for that pregnancy. And it was pretty landmark in saying that, there, to my knowledge, hadn't been a bill that was that definite to say that once you detect a heartbeat, you can't do it. It's really one of the earliest efforts. And unfortunately, John Kasich, who campaigned as a pro-life candidate, for some reason wouldn't sign it. I haven't dug into the full reasons why, probably because it doesn't have a spine, but that's just me. But at least in places like Ohio, there's some significant efforts being made, and I'm really proud of the state legislature of Ohio for passing a bill like that, because it's very bold. And just then, in terms of the federal government level, I referenced this before, but we really need to pray for the reversal of Roe v. Wade. I mean, that right there, it was one of the first things that, not the first thing, but in terms of this issue, where because the Supreme Court has gained such a power to basically make law instead of interpret law, which is a whole other speech, we have acted like Roe v. Wade is federal law. It's actually not, it's a court opinion, but it has been treated as law. And so ever since there, we've had just assumed that federal law said that abortion is legal. Well, anyway, so basically, when it comes to this type of fight, we just have to fight with the tools that we're given. And because the Supreme Court is assumed to have so much power, we then have to use the Supreme Court to overturn its own decisions. Because no one else is willing to do so. The states aren't willing to stand up and say, no, we're going to define for ourselves what this is. So I just wanted to close real quick. If I could do a quick shout out. I am the chairman of the We the People Tea Party. We meet on the first Monday of every month, and we'd love to see any of you out. We are open to the public. We have no membership fees or dues, and we operate on donations only. And you can check out our website, wtplongview.com. We meet at the First Church on Nazarene on H.G. Mosley Parkway in Longview, except for this coming month we're meeting at New Heights Church in Longview, but then back in March we'll be back to our normal location. Also, East Texas for Liberty meets in Gilmer on the second Monday of every month, and the website is easttexasforliberty.com. We meet in the Disabled American Veterans Building on 271 directly across from Walmart. And the Great County Republican Club meets on the third Thursday of every month, and we rotate around the county between Kilgore, Longview, and Gladewater. And all of those different groups are available on Facebook. If you're a social media user, you can find out more information there. And so just a quick shout out for those groups that I'm involved in. And finally, I did want to say, I go to Grace Creek Church in Longview, and it's kind of a long story of how I got to Longview, but that church is really the reason that I'm here. And I did want to say, I presume most everybody here goes to a church or visits church regularly, but if you, in talking about your pro-life issues with your friends or in your community, okay, if someone tells you, well, I've tried to go to this church or that church, but they turned me away because of my attitude towards abortion, or, well, I've had an abortion and I don't feel welcome.